Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball. I'm back once again with a Boiler Ball recap, where Purdue traveled to Ann Arbor in this one to take on the Michigan Wolverines this past Sunday. But without further ado, let's run it. This one ended in a final score of Purdue 84, Michigan 76, a matchup of the top of the Big Ten versus the bottom of the Big Ten. But Michigan put up a battle in this one. May only have 3 Big Ten wins, but they play much better at home than away. So this one was not going to go like it did in West Lafayette, especially with Doug McDaniel playing in this one. Starting off, Michigan struck first, jumping out to an early 10-4 lead within the first 4 minutes off of 2 quick Doug McDaniel threes, but Purdue clawed their way back, and it was a bit of a stalemate for most of the rest of the first half until the last 5 minutes where Purdue really started to getting their way inside as Michigan bigs started getting in foul trouble. Zach Edey ended up with 8 points within those last 5 minutes, and you add a couple of buckets from Lance Jones, and the Boilers went into halftime with an 11-point lead behind 19 first-half points from Edey. Second half, Purdue was able to hold Michigan at distance for the most part, despite a couple of runs. Purdue led by as much as 14 points, but Michigan cut the lead down to as low as 7 with 3 minutes to go, but that's as close as it would get. Purdue just beat them up throughout the game quite physically, basically, and Michigan couldn't really stop fouling them, and that was a big issue for them, whether it was shoving Edey and trying anything to stop him, or the couple of illegal screens they got on the offensive end. Michigan did not help themselves by putting the Boilers to the line early and often. Despite those fouls, Purdue did end up only shooting 19 free throws, which isn't that crazy considering how much they get to the line when they aren't in the bonus for almost half of the first half. But they did only end up going 13 for 19 at the line, so they certainly left a couple of points there. Talking about some of our top performers, the man of the hour, Big Z, Zach Edey, with a monster game of 35 points on 14 of 18 shooting, 7-11 from the free throw line, 15 rebounds, and 2 assists. So overall, a super efficient, dominant game. He just found his way, pretty much had his way doing anything and everything he wanted to do in the paint in this one. Another guy for Purdue, Braden Smith, ended up not shooting the ball very well, but still putting up together a very solid performance. 11 points on 3 of 14 shooting, so not how you would like to see him shoot the ball. 1 for 5 from 3. He was able to go 4 for 4 from the free throw line, but he also put up 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, and also tacked on 3 turnovers at the end there. But I mean, a casual almost triple-double with 11, 8, and 11. Obviously, you'd like to see him shoot the ball better, but he found ways to, make his presence felt all over the court, and especially be a playmaker when Edey is playing that well, find ways to get the ball into him and just let him go to work. On the flip side, for Michigan, leading scorer obviously had to be Doug McDaniel. He is their, heart and soul of their offense. Ended up putting up 19 points on 7 of 20 shooting, 2 for 7 from 3, 3 for 3 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. So not the most efficient shooting game. Obviously, if you shoot 20, you'd like to knock down a little bit more than that, but the ball is going to be in his hands a lot when he's playing. He is by far their most electric offensive player and best playmaker they have. So the ball is going to be in his hands a lot of the time. Secondly, you've got Terrence Williams, the second for Michigan, ended up with 11 points on 4 of 9 shooting, was 0 for 2 from 3, but 3 for 5 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. Some of the honorable mentions for Purdue, Lance Jones continues to find a way to make his presence felt, whether it be scoring, whether it be, even just getting the crowd going in this one. This was an absolutely electric game, despite it being in Michigan for the Boilermakers and the Boiler faithful. But Lance in this one had 15 points on 6 of 12 shooting, 0 for 2 from the free throw line, but he had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. And for Michigan, Nimari Burnett was a big factor as well on offense, ended up with 12 points on 5 of 9 shooting, 2 for 4 from 3, 3 rebounds, and 1 steal. And of course, got to slide one more little baby honorable mention in there for everybody's favorite not president, George Washington III from Michigan, which I love because it also insinuates the fact that their family has George Washington II and George Washington. He just ended up with 4 points, 1 of 1 shooting, 1 for 1 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. So limited minutes, limited shot attempts, but he made his presence felt. He's just a fun one to keep an eye on there. But heading into some of those key team points, for Purdue, it was attack the glass. Purdue made a statement on the glass today, out-rebounding Michigan 41-28 overall and 17-9 on the offensive glass. It felt like the Wolverines didn't even try to rebound sometimes. There were possessions where Purdue got 2 offensive rebounds because no one on Michigan bothered to go after the ball on a long rebound, and both Mason Gillis and Braden Smith happened to just jog over there and grab it on 2 separate occasions. Either way, their rebounding allowed for more possessions and more second chance point opportunities, which will continue to be crucial for them if shots aren't falling at a high clip in some of these tougher games. And secondly, feed Big Z. This was a game where Edey dominated from the jump, and Michigan really had no answer. Getting 35 and 15 in a regulation game, no overtime needed on 14 of 18 shooting, just downright dominant. And Purdue made sure to keep getting him the ball down the stretch when they needed to hold on to their lead that they built up in the second half. Purdue needs to identify games like this where their opponent just isn't really built for or can't find a way to guard Edey very well, and keep feeding him if he's going to be able to feast like he did in this one. For Michigan, it's play aggressive but smart. Michigan did find ways to make it hard on Purdue throughout the game with a very aggressive style of defense, ended up causing 8 turnovers for Purdue, but in the process, they fouled out 2 of their starters and 1 of their rotation guys ended up with 4 fouls, mostly gotten while defending Edey. They need to find a better way to play more balanced, knowing when to get aggressive and put pressure on the ball, both on the bigs and also putting ball pressure on the ball handlers like Braden Smith, who they did end up causing 3 turnovers on. But they also need to know when to take the foot off and not get stupid fouls like some of the player control fouls that they got throughout the game on offensive end. That certainly didn't help keeping their guys out of foul trouble and keeping some of their better bigs in the game trying to guard Edey. So that they really didn't help themselves in that one. And secondly, it doesn't have to be all Doug. Doug McDaniel is a great player, and you want the ball in his hands a lot if you're the Michigan Wolverines. But in this game, he was the only player to shoot the ball double-digit times, and he ended up going 7 for 20. Naturally, the attention is going to be on him a lot, so they'd be better off sometimes looking for him to be a playmaker and open up space for other guys to get more open shots. I mean, he did end up getting 6 assists in this one, so it was clear that when he got the ball out of his hands, it ended up being pretty good for Michigan. So that's something I think they could look to highlight a little bit more. Guys like Will Cheddar and Namari Burnett shot the ball well when they got the opportunity, going 4 for 6 and 4 for 9 respectively, knocking down 3 threes between those 2 guys. So I think they could be a better offensive team if they didn't just keep the ball in Doug McDaniel's hands and hope that he goes off for 30 plus. But the regular season is coming to a close as Purdue gets a little bit of a break here throughout this week and has to wait for Michigan State to come into town on Saturday for their only matchup this season. While for Michigan, they travel to Piscataway to take on Rutgers in the RAC this Thursday, trying to see if they can pick up just their 2nd road Big Ten win. But that's all I've got for today. We're in the end game now, the final 3 regular season games before the Big Ten tournament. It's an exciting time here on the channel. We're getting close to starting to get into some of our pre-March Madness rundowns of the conferences throughout college basketball. So stay tuned for those and keep an eye out for more Boom Buster Believable episodes as we count down the days until Selection Sunday. But until then, like and subscribe for more college basketball content. And until next time, I'm out.